What's up guys, it's tech-raccoon back with another video, and in this video we're going to be comparing the Behringer BH470 headphones to the Sennheiser HD280 Pro headphones. Both of these headphones have a pretty similar use case in mind. They are both designed to be used as monitoring headphones. At least that's what it says on Behringer's website for these headphones, and the Sennheisers of course are known for how good they are at monitoring audio. And I thought it would be a good idea to put these two up against themselves, considering I do have both of them. The Behringers are my brother's, and that's what he uses for mixing music. But let's begin the comparison with the build quality and design. So when you try out these two headphones, when you feel them in your hands, first up, the Behringers do not feel bad for their price, but they feel a little too light and flimsy compared to the Sennheisers. The Behringers do have a touch more metal than the Sennheisers, having a little bit of metal behind the ear cups, but apart from that, that's the only part that I can really say is good about the Behringers compared to the Sennheisers. The Sennheisers, while yes, they are fully made out of plastic, they are very sturdy and strong, and they feel like they will never break, while the Behringers do feel slightly flimsy, and I feel like I could break them relatively easy. The plastic does feel pretty cheap, but for $30 compared to the $130 to $180 price range that the Sennheisers go to, the Behringer's build quality is actually really good for that price. Now as for the design, I actually really like the design of the Behringers. The only thing that I dislike about them is that they have a brown and grey colour scheme. I prefer the black colour scheme of the Sennheisers. I think it just looks a lot more professional than the brown and grey, but that's up to personal preference. All in all, both of these headphones do look really nice, but I would rather choose the Sennheiser HD280 Pros for looks. And just a little side note here, I'm using the Sennheiser HD280 Pro MK2s. Now, as for comfort, both of these headphones have padding on the top of your head and of course for the ear cups. The Behringers have really nice squishy soft ear cups, and so do the Sennheisers, but the Behringers aren't as big as the Sennheisers, and so they only just fit around the ear, while the Sennheisers easily fit over anybody's ears because they have a really nice large ear cup. The BH470s also have a much lighter pressing force on your head, while the Sennheisers have a pretty strong pressing force, especially for the first 2 weeks. After that, it really molds to your head, same with the ear cups and the head pads, and it all just molds together so well to create such a comfortable experience, which the Behringer BH470s just can't match. While yes, they are comfortable, they don't really mold over time and turn into an extremely comfortable pair of headphones. They just stay around the medium comfortable zone. But again, I can't complain for that $30 to $35 price point. Now, just before I do talk about the sound quality, both of these have a very similar cable design. They both have a non-detachable cable, which is a big shortcoming of the Sennheiser HD280 Pros, but for the Behringers, since they're so cheap, it doesn't really matter. And the cable gets coiled, and on the Sennheiser it's a very, very long coil, while on the Behringer it's a relatively short coil. But either way, they both go into a coil, and then at the end it has the 3.5mm jack, which has a screw-on converter that comes in the box to a 4.5mm jack, which is what most interfaces use. So let's get on to the main topic of the video, which is sound quality of these headphones. The sound quality of these headphones is relatively different, but there are some similarities. So let's start off with the trebles. The trebles on the Sennheiser are absolutely phenomenal. They have a really crystal clear glass-like sound quality to them, and since they have a really nice attenuation of these headphones and they cancel out all the background noise, you can really focus on the sounds of the crisp high end and all the other tones, but I'll get into that later. So the crisp high end of the Sennheisers is far better than the Behringers. The Behringers, while yes, it does have some high end, it kind of tops out pretty low, so you don't have a lot of sibilant noises and stuff, which for some people is good. For me, I find that they are lacking a fair bit of treble, but it is still pretty decent. There is still a fair bit of treble compared to other headphones I've used. Then onto the midtones. The midtones on the Sennheisers are very, very good. There's not really much to say about them. They sound good, and I can't really complain at all. With the Behringers, the midtones are actually probably the strongest point of these headphones. While yes, they do sound slightly nasally and muffled compared to the Sennheisers, that's really nitpicking at that price point, and that's probably the best part of these headphones. Now onto the lows. The Sennheisers have a really low range of bass, and it goes so low to the point where the human ear can't even hear it. And the bass is not very loud, so I do prefer to use these with a slight bass boost, but I didn't for this comparison, of course. The bass isn't extremely loud, but it matches really well with the mids and the trebles to make a really flat sound signature, which I really like. And with a touch more bass, this is the perfect listening experience for me. While on the Behringers, you'll notice that the bass kind of rolls off at a certain point and becomes very quiet. It's not a great listening experience in terms of bass. If you have a bass-heavy song with these headphones, it really cuts off early. An example of this is Slow Dancing in the Dark by Joji. When I was listening to this song on both of the headphones just for comparison, I noticed that the Behringers have a very, very aggressive roll-off on that bass, and it would become very quiet at a certain hertz range. So when the bass would switch from one note to that low note, it would almost become inaudible. So that was a big issue with these headphones. I didn't actually notice it really that much for my review, but now it became much more pronounced as I've had much more expensive headphones to play around with compared to my previous Steel series. So that is my big complaint with the BH470s, that the bass is pretty mediocre. Everything else about it, like the treble and the mids and the build quality and the design, all of that and the comfort is all very good for $33. It's just that bass which really disappointed me, but for $33 you still can't go wrong. I think this is an absolute bargain headset for just taking around, maybe traveling with it, not for mixing like my brother uses it, but just for anything else. It's actually a pretty decent headset to just listen to things with. So in conclusion, which one is better? Obviously the Sennheisers, as I've mentioned, but which one has the best price to performance? Well, this is a bit hard to figure out, because while yes, the Behringers are very good for their price, that bass issue can be a big problem for a lot of people. If you're planning on mixing, just rule out these Behringers. These are not good for mixing because they're not going to give you an even sound signature, and they're not going to allow you to mix your bass very well because it'll just cut off all of a sudden. That being said, if you're not going to be mixing with these headphones, they are really good for pretty much everything else you could do with them, like monitoring audio. It's still a very nice experience. In fact, it sounds relatively similar to my Sennheiser HD280 Pros when I'm just monitoring my audio on the Shure SM7B. They actually sound relatively similar, so that is one area where the Behringers do shine a fair bit for their money. On the other hand, the Sennheisers are very good value for money if you pick them up for 135 Australian dollars like I happened to get them for. It was on a $50 off special, and I'm really happy with them. The build quality, the sound, the comfort, everything, it really makes it worth the money for me. While yes, the Behringers are very good value for money, if you can save up a bit more money for better headphones, go for the Sennheisers. So hopefully this video helped you out choosing between these two headphones. Now, another thing I'd just like to mention is I'd really like to thank every one of you for subscribing to this channel and getting this channel to 1,000 subscribers. Even though it's just a number, 1,000 subscribers is a big milestone. I've been doing YouTube for 5 years and 3 years consistently, and I finally hit 1,000 subscribers, and it's all thanks to you guys. So a big thank you to everyone who subscribed to the channel. I really appreciate it. And if you aren't subscribed already, make sure to subscribe, and hopefully you did enjoy this video. If you did, drop a like on the video. If you didn't, drop a dislike on the video, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.